If you love gochujang, here's a little secret. This chili paste takes months to make, and some batches are even fermented in clay pots buried underground. It might look simple, but by the end of this video you'll see it's anything but. Stick around to find out how gochujang is made and what it's made of. What is gochujang and what's it made of? Alright, let's get one thing straight. Gochujang is not just some random chili sauce you drizzle over fries. This thick red chili boasts centuries of tradition wrapped up in a spicy red paste. Gochujang is the backbone of Korean flavor. It's what gives dishes like bibimbap that deep, satisfying kick. It turns chewy rice cakes into full-blown flavor bombs in tteokbokki. It even makes grilled meats taste like they were marinated by the food gods themselves. But what makes it so different from, say, sriracha or hot sauce? The answer is simple. Gochujang isn't just about heat. It's about balance. It's spicy, yes, but it's also sweet. Not candy sweet, but natural mellow sweetness that sneaks in thanks to the rice. Then comes the umami, that savory, can't-stop-eating depth you get from the fermented soybean. Add in the saltiness, and you've got a perfect mix that hits every taste bud. It doesn't punch you in the face. Rather, it builds slowly. At first, it's smooth, warm, and then suddenly you're sweating and loving every second of it. Now, this paste has been around since the 16th century, maybe even earlier. Back then, people didn't go to the store to pick it up. They made it at home. Families would spend days mixing ingredients and then leave the paste to ferment in huge clay pots called jangdok. These pots would sit outside, uncovered for months. Rain, snow, sweltering heat, it didn't matter. The changing weather was part of the process. They believed gochujang needed all 4 seasons to develop its full flavor. That's some real dedication right there. Now let's talk about the ingredients that make up gochujang. You've got 4 main players in the mix. First up is red chili powder. In Korean, it's called gochugaru, and it's got a smoky, earthy vibe that's totally different from the sharp burn of most chili powders. It's what gives gochujang that iconic deep red color. Next is glutinous rice, also known as sticky rice. This stuff breaks down during fermentation and turns into sugar. No artificial sweeteners, no syrups, just rice doing its thing. That's where gochujang gets its smooth, slightly sweet flavor. Then we've got fermented soybean powder. I know it doesn't sound glamorous, but it's what gives gochujang its soul. It's nutty, funky, and packed with umami. The kind of taste that makes food feel rich and satisfying. And finally, there's salt. Sounds basic, right? But salt isn't just for flavor here. It protects the paste during those long months of fermentation, keeping the nasty stuff out while the good microbes do their magic. So yeah, gochujang may look like a simple red paste, but once you know what it's made of, it starts to feel a lot like a masterpiece in a jar. Now let's take a look at how it's made. Preparing the rice. We'll begin with one of gochujang's most underrated ingredients, and that's none other than glutinous rice. Now you might be thinking, rice is rice, right? But nope, not even close. This stuff is the key to unlocking the slow-building sweetness gochujang is known for, and how you cook it makes or breaks the whole batch. First off, glutinous rice is a specific type of rice that's extra starchy and gets super sticky when you cook it. It's not your basic long grain stuff. This rice practically turns into glue when steamed, which is exactly what you want when making gochujang. That gooey texture helps trap all the flavor and makes the fermentation process way smoother. But here's the part you probably didn't know. You can't just boil the rice like you're making dinner. That would totally mess up the texture. Instead, traditional makers soak the rice overnight, then steam it slowly, sometimes for over an hour. They'll often use wide bamboo trays or even big clay steamers. The goal is to soften the rice so much that it starts to fall apart when you touch it. It needs to be squishy, a little sticky, and still a bit chewy in the center. Basically, perfect. Some people take a shortcut and use rice flour instead. Sure, it dissolves faster, it's easier to handle, and it cuts the process way down. But if you're going for the real deal flavor, it doesn't get better than whole soaked rice. This is because it breaks down naturally and feeds the enzymes during fermentation. Those enzymes turn starch into sugar slowly over time, and that's how you get that rich, almost caramel-like taste without adding a single grain of sugar. In older villages, people even used wood-fired steaming methods. Picture a giant pot of rice sitting on top of a clay stove, smoke gently curling out, and the fire crackling underneath. Someone's probably fanning the fire, checking the rice by hand, and making sure it's cooked just right. I know it's not fast, but it works, and it gives the final gochujang a slightly toasted, deeper background flavor you can't really get from an electric cooker. Once the rice is done, it's mashed or mixed into a warm, thick paste. Then it gets combined with the chili powder, fermented soybean powder, and salt. We'll get to these other ingredients later in the video. But here's the cool part. That warm rice paste acts like a fermentation starter. It's full of starches and already halfway broken down. So when the microbes move in, they've got the perfect environment to thrive. So next time you taste gochujang and get that subtle sweetness behind the spice, you'll know it came from glutinous rice, steamed the old-fashioned way and broken down over weeks and months, not by machines, but by time and tradition. Preparing and adding the chili. Moving on, you can't talk about gochujang without giving a massive shout out to gochugaru. This chili powder doesn't just add heat, it brings character, it brings color, and it brings that slow, lingering burn that makes you keep eating, even when your mouth says stop. And what makes it special isn't just the chili itself, it's the way it's made. Gochugaru starts with Korean red chili peppers, which are usually a bit milder and sweeter than the fiery ones you'll find in places like India or Mexico. Farmers pick them when they're perfectly ripe, then they slice them open and lay them out to dry. But not just anywhere. In old-school villages, families used to spread them out on rooftops, yards, or woven mats, letting the sun do all the hard work. No machines, no rush, just time, sunshine, and fresh air. Once the peppers are dried, they're ground up in a way that keeps a coarse texture. This isn't fine powder like cayenne. Gochugaru has a body. You can see the tiny flakes, and they don't just make gochujang look beautiful, they also let the flavor bloom slowly when you eat it. But here's where it gets personal. Every region, and sometimes every household, adds their own little spin on gochugaru. Some would dry the peppers longer for a smokier vibe, while others would leave in more seeds for extra kick. Some families even save seeds from their favorite pepper plants and keep growing their own special peppers every season. It was like having a chili family tree. These people didn't just make chili powder, they crafted it. Grandmas would adjust the drying time based on the weather, uncles would use different grinding tools depending on the batch size, and kids helped flip the peppers so they dried evenly. It was a family project, and everyone played a part. That means no two chili powders were ever exactly the same. And when that powder went into the gochujang, it left a fingerprint. So if your neighbor's gochujang tasted a bit sweeter or hotter or smokier than yours, just know that wasn't a mistake. That was tradition in action. Time for soybeans. Now we're getting to the funky part, because this is where the fermented soybeans come in. I know you don't think a brown, dry powder made from old beans could change your life, but oh man, it absolutely can. This stuff is the silent flavor hero in gochujang. It doesn't shout and it doesn't try to be the star, but without it, everything falls flat. Once the soybeans are cleaned, cooked, and dried, that's when the gochujang comes to life. People grind them up, then ferment the heck out of them until they're packed full of rich, savory flavor. It's like turning plain tofu into a punch of flavor with just air, time, and patience. This fermented soybean powder connects gochujang to Korea's other legendary sauces like doenjang, which is the thick soybean paste, and ganjang, which is Korean soy sauce. These three are like flavor siblings. They share the same roots, and they all get their kick from one thing: fermentation. But we're not talking about controlled lab fermentation with shiny machines and lab coats. Nope. In the countryside, it's still done the old school way. People make soybean blocks by hand. These are called meju. They soak soybeans, mash them, form them into thick bricks, then tie them with rice straw. Then they are hung outside using hooks and left alone for weeks, sometimes months. Why? Because they want the natural bacteria in the air to settle in and do its job. The rice straw actually helps attract the good bacteria, which is totally wild if you think about it. And over time, those blocks dry out, harden, and become loaded with the deep umami flavor that makes your mouth water before you even take a bite. Once dried, the soybeans are crushed into powder. Not too fine though, because a little texture helps during the gochujang fermentation. And once the stuff goes into the mix, it starts unlocking layers of flavor that chili alone could never do. Honestly, this is what separates gochujang from every other chili paste out there. The fermented soybean powder gives it depth, like bass in a song. You may not notice it right away, but without it, the gochujang can never be perfect. Next up, clay pot fermentation. Now comes the part that really sets gochujang apart from every other chili paste on the planet. Once all the ingredients are mixed together, it doesn't go straight into a bottle or jar. Oh no, it goes into these large traditional clay pots called ongyi or jangdok. And here's where it gets crazy. These pots aren't just sitting around in a factory. In traditional homes, they're kept outside on a platform called jangdokdae, where they sit through rain, snow, sunshine, and even the occasional bird poop. No joke, that's part of the magic. The clay pots are slightly porous, so they let air in and out, which helps good bacteria grow while keeping the paste safe from the bad stuff. Fermentation can take months, and in some cases over a year. That's right, this paste isn't whipped up overnight. As time passes, the flavors deepen, mellow out, and become more complex. It's like the difference between grape juice and a fine bottle of wine. Now, not everyone's got a backyard full of clay pots. These days, a lot of gochujang is made in modern food factories. And here's the cool part. Some of them still try to honor the traditional method, even if they scale it up big time. Some brands even partner with local farmers to get their chili peppers and fermented soybean powder the traditional way. That way you get consistency without losing the heart of what gochujang is all about. And now you know what gochujang is made of and how it's made. Hit that subscribe button if you'd like to learn how other interesting products are created from scratch.